Aloha Live, everybody. Thank you. Aloha Friday coming to you on this great day. It's so great to be alive, so great to be in the presence of Tom Lawrence. Look, we scheduled the podcast, but I'm so happy he's here with me today on Aloha Friday Live, all the way from the UK. So, Tom, I know it's late, but hey, give us a little bit about you, your background, and so that folks can get to know you here.
Well, thanks very much, Enrique. It's great to be part of your podcast as well. It's now 10 o'clock in the UK, but that's fine. You know, if it was 1 o'clock in the morning, that would be absolutely fine as well. Just a bit about my background is my name's Tom Lawrence. I've got a website called highlyeffectiveleader.com. I wrote a book, self-published a book in January this year called Manager to Leader. I've actually gotten the book here, if you can see that. I'll post the link in the comments if people want to go and have a look at it. And the reason I've got highlyeffectiveleader.com and my book Manager to Leader is because I've been in the engineering industry since I was 16 years old, so that's over 20 years. Wow. And I've been in management and leadership positions since 2009. And I just, after that, all that amount of time working with all of these different leaders, I just thought it was a good time for me to share my experiences and help people with them. So that, you know, it's not just as I say, my own leadership experiences, but the experiences I've had with so many different leaders that I've worked with, some good, some bad, who I can, you know, help other people with their leadership journeys as well. So that's basically the reason why I'm here.
Outstanding. Yeah, no, and you're right. You're here because of that. And so we've entered in, in collaboration for a while. And I know that, the developing the leader within, for all of the for all of you out there that would like to get on the podcast. And let me just give you a quick snippet of my of the way I plan these things. By October the year before, the entire year is booked, right? And it's an endeavor, but I love it that way because I I literally pick the guests. The guests are picked, right? So that's a difference in a podcast where a lot of people request to get on or whatnot, and so we were booked when we met, and but here we have an opportunity, and that's really why I started Aloha Friday Live, to give an extension of the podcast, but in a different flavor, because this is conversational. So Tom, it's great to see that you have the background. You were able to rise through the ranks, from manager to leader. I loved the title of the book because that's how it goes. And we were discussing earlier that the two roles and how distinct they are, and one calls for another, but one can actually trickle into another, and then you could actually decide to digress from one, and just be fine. So just because you're a manager doesn't mean that you need to be a leader. There's some managers that I wish would never be a leader, right? Because then they're going to take whatever it is that you see at that level and just, make it one of those things where they bulldoze over people. But I love that you mentioned good and bad, because there is both things in managers and there's both things in leaders. So let's talk a little bit about how you got to writing this book, because I tell you, hey folks, writing a book is no joke. And if somebody will tell you that it is, I don't know, they must be some type of genius. But it takes a lot of work to put a book together that'll speak to people outside of you, but it's telling your story. So how did you get to that point in your manager leader journey?
Well, it was about 2018 that I decided to write a book, because I was in a position. I was in a position. I was called engineering technical manager in London. It was I was working in the rail industry, and basically it was the position I was in. if you look at it in a hierarchy position, where I was deputy professional head of engineering, which is quite a high level, but it wasn't the very top level of engineering.
Right.
And at first, the position that I had was great, and I got on with all the directors, all the other leaders in the company quite well. But after a while, it started getting very micromanagey, and that was, I was being micromanaged, and the way I was being encouraged to lead my people who reported to me was to micromanage them. And after about a year or 18 months, the job just started to break me, and I just couldn't function properly. I couldn't think properly. I couldn't work properly, and people started noticing, including my own line manager, who, give him his dues. He sat me down and said, I think you need to get out of this position. It's not serving you well, and you're obviously not your normal self. So I did. And then after about a month of leaving that position, I got another job working. It was still in the rail industry, but I was working for a consultancy company rather than an actual train operating company. And I became a senior project manager. And after I could feel that job was serving me well, because I didn't have a team actually reporting into me, but I did have a team that I led indirectly. And it was something I'd never done before. So it was a lot of influencing. I had to influence a lot rather than, the normal way of how you manage people, right? Because you don't manage people, you lead people, or you influence them. So it was a lot. I had to sort of work on my influencing skills and try and build them up. And then after about 6 months, I thought, I can write all this down. I could help people with this, because I could feel myself getting better and better. And I just thought to myself, well, why don't let's have a look into maybe writing this down in a blog. And that's when highlyeffectiveleader.com came about, and I started the blog. But I was writing every single day, and I couldn't stop. I was like, I've written enough within like about 3 months for a book. I thought, why don't I put this into a book, or and just keep writing and keep writing, and after a while, I've written about four books worth of material. So I thought, maybe I can start looking into maybe self-publishing this, and then that was the first book that I published was Manager to Leader, which is this year. So I just taught myself how to do self-publishing and all, and who I need to go to get me covered written, and how it goes on Amazon and all that stuff. And then after a while, I got to that level and published it. And it's been done pretty well. I've sold quite a few, and it's done well on LinkedIn and stuff. And people have commented and gave me reviews and that, and it's been unbelievable. I'm so grateful for people to recognize it in that way, but I'm also grateful to myself for putting the work in and not giving up. And that's another thing that I want to try and get across as well, is if you do have that dream of if you want to write a book or do anything in your life, go for it. Don't give up. The Olympics is on now. Look at all these people who are winning gold medals and all that stuff. Look at the amount of work they put in. So that's one thing that I'm grateful for, is to not give up on myself.
Yeah, I tell you that before we get into this, I want to take a moment and just thank Brian, Sherry, Akshima for joining us today. Brian says, great story, very relatable. And we got greetings from Sherry all the way from Beverly Hills. She has a great conference going on over there, and it's either going on or it's coming soon. So thank you, Sherry, for being with us. Akshima said that your website is great, brother. Huh? Yeah, so thank you for that comment. Hey, if you're listening, by all means, chime in, get in there, and let us know where you're from, and anything that you like to digest or comment. we'd be happy to see that and talk about that. So you wrote this book. Congratulations on that, because indeed that is a great milestone.
Thank you.
I'm currently on mine as well, so that'll be out here before too long. But you mentioned something that I'm sure that every listener, when they heard that, said, "Yeah," and it's micromanagement, right?
Yeah.
It is something that will, wow, it'll kill you inside.
Yeah.
It will do things that you never even realized that it could do,
Yeah.
to you personally, and especially to teams, right? So that kind of made you kind of go into a direction, and that's what's funny about the things that are intended for our bad, right? Because
Mm.
there's no micromanagement that's ever intended for your good.
No.
So, hey, Ricky, thank you for being with us tonight, all the way from California. And so, tell us a little bit about that. Yeah, because it's always interesting to see how it truly, affects. I know I had an episode like that in my life. Uh, I made a decision to go. I said, no, I can't
Mm.
do this. I'm sorry. There's no amount of money that you could pay me to sit in this type of scenario. So,
Mm.
what went through your head as you was transitioning to another position, a separate thing, and then you mentioned another thing that, which is, I love, something that was going to serve you.
Mm.
And a lot of times we make the mistake, for either fear or convenience, right? To stay under the mantle of micromanagement, and to
Mm.
stay in a situation that it no longer serves us. So if you could
Yeah.
give us a little bit about that, in your life, and how that affected you.
Well, I mean, it wasn't, I mean, the position that I was previously in, that I mentioned earlier about micromanagement, it's actually happened to me in a few positions that I've had. And that's how I knew that it wasn't working, because it happened to me before. And the
Right.
feeling that I was getting was, I was waking up in the morning and I was dreading going to work. I was like, oh, what is it? Oh, it's 5:30. I've got to be up in half an hour. Is there any way I can phone in sick today? That's what was going through my head, and that's not where you want to be with your place of work. And I was getting like sick feelings in my stomach when I was walking into the office, or I was going into a particular meeting on one day. And I mean, there was even like time I was sitting there in the meeting room and I was like slumped like that, and people were looking at me and saying, "Are you okay, Tom? Are you don't look like your normal self." And I wasn't okay. I was like, no, this is just not working for me anymore. This is, as you just said then, this is not serving me. And I'm not serving the team, because they're looking at me like this thinking, why is he even here? He's not doing anything. He's just basically a person in a room, not really doing anything, because I didn't have any energy in me. I didn't have any drive in me to basically get to do my job, because I was so deflated and depressed, and I mean, like the drive had been driven out of me through micromanagement. And that's the feeling that you can get from it, is it can drive you to real depression. Luckily it didn't drive me to that stage, but it could have, if I'd have stayed longer than I did. And I know people that's actually happened to, and it's not a nice place to be in.
Yeah, I can echo that,
Mm.
because when I was going through that, in that
Mm.
particular job that I was in, uh, and I've said this before in various opportunities, either through the Aloha Friday Live or my podcast,
Mm.
that it actually froze me as an
Mm.
individual.
Yeah.
I vividly remember reaching out for the doorknob to go into my work site, and I froze and asked myself, "Do you really want to do this?" Do you want to open this door? And and so, and I don't want to just dwell on the micromanagement. There's so much we got to talk about. But folks, if you know you're a leader and you're micromanaging, you need to stop for the sake of your people.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would micromanage, but figure that out. Figure it out before you continue to work down and wear down your people. Because there's nobody at the end of a micromanager that is happy. Nobody. So if you know you're doing it, cut it out. And if you know you're under it, you got a choice to make, and I hope that you choose you before you do your job, because it could get pretty ugly. It did for me. I'm happy I left. Some people can't just go, and I understand that. But if you have the opportunity, get out of that situation, because it's going to be ugly. So, the comment you say things that were working for you. I love that, because it's hard to figure out what works for us, what's working for us, and what is serving us. It's so critical to figure that out. So you had to figure out what was serving you, what wasn't serving you anymore. Sometimes what we do is we sit under this one thing for too long. It's almost like over baking, right? If you put a brownie in an oven and you expect that thing to be moist, but you doubled the time, good luck with that. So let's talk about things that serve us, and how we should start recognizing these things so that we can actually be in the right place that we need to be.
Well, when it comes to leadership and not just for like leading yourself, but leading your team, is leadership. Like for me, leadership's like an art form, and there's no one way to lead. You can't just lead. You can't lead one person one way and then lead another person in exactly the same way. You have to go about it in a different way. You have to listen to your people. You have to understand what it is that drives them, what turns them on, what turns them off, what upsets them, what excites them, and how you can leverage those positivities that you learn about them to help them be their best self. And as I say, I mean, if you've got a team of 9 people, then you need to build a relationship with all 9 people. And not, I mean, some people will be better performers than others. So, when it comes to like the workload and the getting the job done and results, then you probably would focus on your stronger performers, like you would in a football team or a athletics team or whatever. But when it comes to the morale of the team and also the culture and serving your people, you need to serve each one of your people in the same way, and not in the same way, but at the same level. Because everyone is just as important as the other, and so you need to. Leadership is extremely hard work. It's not. If you get a job position as a engineering technical manager like I did, and you get a job description, that job description has got nothing to do with people. That job description is how you can make the company more profitable. Whereas for a leader, there is no job description. A leader is, my role is to help my people be their best selves for themselves, for the team, for the organization, and for even beyond, for their friends, for their family, for the community. How can you help them become leaders themselves? Like that's my why, is to develop aspiring and current leaders into highly effective leaders, so that they can help aspiring and current leaders into highly effective leaders. And that's what I see as a leader's role, is to create more leaders.
Yeah, and I appreciate Sherry for the comments that you're putting in there, and definitely micromanagement could take up an entire show. But she talked about, and I'm gonna throw it up here real quick, and we'll move on, continue to do the leadership thing here. But micromanagement is a lack of trust in the ability of your workers. I
Yeah.
had to learn to trust that someone can do the job as well as I, or better. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things too, right?
Yeah.
When you're micromanaging, you're basically saying there is no better way. And that is almost one of the foolish most thoughts that you can run through your mind, that
Yeah.
that no one can do it better than what you're saying. There's plenty of people that can run circles around me
Yeah.
in any one type of subject or another. I love to have them around me, because if we're together, there's going to be some things I can do that they cannot. Let me
And
run
vice.
that. Let me run that circle. You run your circle, and before we know it, we got a whirlwind, right? So,
Yeah.
and you just mentioned leaders' job is to create more leaders.
Mm.
But let me tell you, because there's a sense of lack of reverence for leadership that I see most often than not.
Mm.
When you're talking about creating future leaders, other leaders, it is not replicating yourself, right?
No.
Because that's, and some people got that confused. So let's talk about the evolution of leadership. We'll talk about also, the differences that, between manager and leader.
Mm.
Most people kind of got that down. Some people are still confused, but that's okay. They'll get there.
Mm.
But I love to talk about the evolution of a leader, because a lot of people try to duplicate themselves, and that's an error,
Mm.
right?
Definitely.
Because what I can do with the mindset, my emotions, my physical capabilities, my education, it's all packed into me for the way I can do it.
Mm.
You have a different set of skills, exposures, experiences, um, that will make you a different person, right? It does make you a different person. But for me to expect you to be me as a leader would be the wrong thing. So how do I get, as a leader, how do I get this, my head wrapped around the fact that, hey, my job number one is to create somebody else to lead after me, and number two, hey, it doesn't have to look like me.
Yeah. Well, first of all, for me, the most important leadership principle is leading by example. So, and to lead by example, your role is basically to inspire your people. You want to inspire your people to follow you because they want to, not because they have to. And that's one of the differences between management and leadership as well, which we'll come on later. We'll talk about later. But I mean, leadership is who you are. It's not what you do.
Mm.
It's, like we've all got our own strengths and weaknesses. We've all got our own ways, visions of what the world looks like. We've all got our own visions of what good results look like. But we can't all do it in the same way because we're all different people. Like you say, we've all got our own strengths, we've all got our own weaknesses. And leaders work to their strengths mainly. They develop their weaknesses, but they mainly work to their strengths. So for me, I would find out if I'm trying to develop new leaders to take over from me, I would like to find out what their strengths are and help them to work to those strengths, so that by the time if I was to leave the role and one of the guys in the team or girls in the team were to take over from me, they wouldn't have to take over from me and do exactly what I did. They would take over from me and work to their strengths because as a team and as an individual, they've helped develop those strengths. So it's all about who you are, not what. It's all about your character, basically, not your competency. A lot of people think management and leadership is all about competencies and what you can do. It's not. It's about who you are and how you can inspire the next generation of leaders. That's what it's all about for me.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned, it's who you are,
Mm.
the the issue that I see most often is that a lot of people don't even know who they are.
No.
And and that's straight to the heart, right? That some people gonna be like, "What you mean?"
Mm.
Um, if you don't know who you are, then you can't help somebody develop who they are,
Yeah.
right? Because you're trying. It's like the lost leading the lost, a blind leading the blind, and it's unfortunate that part of leadership development, when you do it externally, like when you do it like you do and I do, that we
Mm.
get to talk to people, so we know how to identify that. Hey, first of all, you need to know who you are, and then we can go from there. But
Mm.
mainstream leadership development in corporate settings or in company settings do not focus on that.
No.
I don't know if it's just that they feel that that's too you know touchy feely, mushy, and
Mm.
and they don't want to go down that road.
Mm.
But they skip a very vital element in developing someone to go from who they were raised to be to who you expect them to be in a corporate setting or in a leadership setting.
Mm.
And a lot of times we shortchange the person, developing them in those roles, and then we wonder why they can't be in tune with somebody else, because they don't get this education in EQ and compassion, mercy, all these other things that are touchy feely. They have to be, right, because you're dealing
Yeah.
with person to person.
Yeah.
So Ricky posts this, and I don't know if you can see it on your end, but it says mentorship so that others can find who they are, and to do it their own way that works for them. And it's usually, and that is exactly right. That's what we want
Mm.
to see. um where have you seen, uh can you even see corporations and companies taking a step towards allowing this type of development to occur, or is it something that way we can pretty much count on having a job for a while?
Um, I can see it happening. I mean, I've the company that I worked in from 2005 to 2011 when I lived in Liverpool. I mean, I'm from Liverpool. I live in London now, but I'm from Liverpool in the UK. We had an engineering director who came in. I'd been there about 6 months, and he asked for. I was a graduate engineer at the time. This was in 2006, and he asked me for a one-to-one. I was like, oh my God, what does he want to talk to me about? Like, I'm just a graduate engineer. Why is I was absolutely so nervous. I thought he was going to like fire me or something. I was like, oh my God. So I went in and sat down with him, and he just said to me, like, who are you, Tom? And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, no, where do you want to get? Where do you want to be in your career? Where do you want to get to? And straight away in my head, I said, I want to be sitting where you're sitting. And he said, okay, well, how are you going to do that? And I was like, I don't know. And he just basically said to me, okay, well, go away, find out, and then come back to me. So I went away, and I said to him, well, to get into your position, I'm going to have to do an engineering degree. And he was like, okay, so how are you going to fund that? And I was like, well, can you help me? And he said, okay, well, go away, build a business case for it, and come back and see if it works. And then when I come back with the business case, he'd already funded it for me. He already saw it. He already, within 2 days, he saw something in me. And the vibe that he gave to everybody in the whole, this is not just me, the whole like engineering department was, you can do what you want. If you're here to be your best self. That's what he used to always say that to me. We're not here just to do a job. We're here to be our best selves, so that when you go home to your family, you're in a good mood. You don't go home and take out like a rubbish day that you had in work. You don't take it out on your family, because that's what happens a lot. I mean, have you ever heard of the guy who the managing director of Barry Waymiller? I forgot his name, but he totally changed the company because he saw it as we're not divided by issues, we're united by purpose. And this is exactly the same thing that happened with the engineering director who worked with me. He would always say, we're here to be our best selves. We're here for our friends and family. We're here for our community. It was always beyond the job. It wasn't just, we'd turn up to work at 9 o'clock in the morning, work till 5 in the afternoon, and go home. It's more than that. And that was the vibe that everybody in the engineering department got. And then it sort of portrayed into the rest of the business until he left.
That's a beautiful story because it really talks to the heart of what leadership truly is, right? So this man, he could have, went about his business. He didn't have to even pose that question, but he saw something in you and said, you know what, just a little prodding, just a little guidance, and most importantly, a whole lot of support, right? Because when you came and you did your job, you did your work, you dug and you found, you brought it back, and the beauty of it was that he already acted on something he knew you was going to do.
Exactly.
If he even thought that you was not going to come back with any good information, he would have never funded it.
No.
But he knew that you was hungry enough to go and fetch the information, get it right, and bring it. And so, kudos to that gentleman. I don't know where he's at, but great job in ensuring that the pipeline for leaders was there. And he gave way to your progressing, and that's such a wonderful story to share.
Well, I actually talk about him in my book. So if anyone, I've just posted in the private chat the link to my book. So if anyone wants to learn more about that guy, then you can. If you want to read it in my book, Manager to Leader.
Outstanding. And I'm going to try to put that into the comments here. And just so people know, sometimes in the chat, it will show up on one of the stream platforms. In this case, it went straight to Twitter. So I'll make sure to have that as part of the comments on LinkedIn when we're done. But if you go to the YouTube channel or Twitter, Developing the Leader Within podcast, or TLS_Florida FL on Twitter, you'll see those. You'll see how to get that. But I'll make sure that it's provided on LinkedIn as well. And so, we most people know the difference between management and leadership. Some can tell you because they're under a leader that is still acting like a manager. Because typically, right, you manage for a while, and people, either for whatever reason, most reason that I've seen is that there's a need, there's a gap, you're there, I'm going to put you in it. And that's not the ideal way to to promote people into leadership, but it's probably the most common, right?
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about management, as you would detail it and have detailed it in your book, so that people can understand, and and then we can look at the differences here.
Well, with management, you don't manage people. You lead and influence people. You manage things. You manage processes. You manage policies and procedures. You manage things that don't have feelings, basically. Time management, profit, business growth, all those things that I've got nothing to do with human beings. That's management for me. And anything to do with people, you either influence them or you lead them. If you try and manage people in the same way as you manage your time or your whatever your work, then you're not going to help them to be their best. You're going to get them to a state, your people to a stage where they give just the right amount of energy and brain power and all that stuff just to get the job done. And then see the day out till 5 o'clock in the afternoon till they can go home to their families. You're not gonna get your people to a stage where they would do this job even if they didn't get paid. Imagine that. Imagine you had a team where they loved working for you as a leader, loved working for the organization, loved working for the team as a unit, for themselves and as a group, who would love to stay on after 5 o'clock, give their 100% energy, give their 100% intelligence to get the best results for the team. Imagine you could get your people to that level. And that is exactly what leadership is. If you manage people, if you see your people as numbers or you see them as heads, then you're not going to get anywhere with them. You need to treat your people the way you would like to be treated. That's leadership. You need to speak to your people the way you would like to be spoken to. You need to not micromanage them. You need to stop being on their back. You need to trust them. So how do you build trust? You build a relationship with, if you have a team of 12 people, you build a relationship with all 12 people. You listen to them. You care for them. When your people feel when you listen to your people and understand them, they feel heard. When they feel heard, they feel cared for. When they feel cared for, trust builds. When trust builds, your influence increases. When your influence increases, your leadership increases. And it sounds really simple, but it's actually very, very difficult to do. But you cannot give up on your people. And that's the difference between management and leadership is all about this, all about the heart and all about this. Whereas management is about, taking care of things, taking care of policies, procedures, whatever you want to call them, that have got nothing to do with that or that.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to separate those two, because in I've always said that if you aim to lead without influence, you're nothing but an overpaid manager.
Yeah.
because what happens is that you will never ever have the support of the people. They will end up supporting the company, not you. Right. And so and it's a tough situation to be in if you're in a position of leadership but nobody could care for you, in terms of you being in that position. And a lot of times, for lack of reaching out for a mentor or somebody that you may notice has that type of relationship with their folks, that you never excel. And what happens is, you get burned somehow, way or another in your position, and you or you end up hurting people, which is the worst case scenario. Because if you hurt yourself, man, shame on you. Yeah, we're gonna be sad. But if you hurt yourself and on top of that a bunch of people, then I'm like, really, shame on you. Let's not even talk about yourself right now. Look at all these people that are being and somehow impacted by your lack of wanting to go out and grow or get some help. You talk about the heart, which is one of those things that managers are not required to have, because they're, you mentioned processes, the policies, and things of that nature. You could technically manage people because let's say you have a shift, but that's truly time and resource management. you're never going to manage a person, because if you come to me and say, hey, yeah, I'm so and so, and I'm going to be managing your life, and I'm going to say, well, have a nice day.
Yeah,
You can't manage my life. Sometimes I
exactly.
can't manage my life. So how you going to do that? But in any
Yeah.
case, you know, it's not really required. A heart is not really required in that process. You just need to make sure that things are there when they need to be, whatever
Mm,
it may be. But on the leadership side, it truly requires you to be outside of you. You can't
mm,
think of, that's why they often say it's not about you, right? It's
yeah.
not about you. Um, you got here because it was about you, but now it's not about you. It's about the person that needs to get there. And so
Yeah.
you switch modes, but Tom, it's hard to get somebody that's been all their career, when it's all about them, to automatically they're in a position now they have to switch. So
Mm,
how do I get people there beforehand? Because there has to be a way that we can integrate this into management development where it's not a foreign thing, because there's a lot of people that fall on the sword when it gets to the heart piece.
mm. Well, I think when it comes to, I mean, if someone's been focusing on themselves for so long through the career, I mean, leadership is about others, but it does start with you. So you need to. So the way I try and put it across is you work on yourself to become the most valuable person or the most valuable leader you can be, so that you can add the most value to your people. So you need to work on yourself every day for your people. So your purpose is to help develop your people, but at the same time developing yourself. So you're giving to your people so you can receive. But if you know what, but sorry, you're giving yourself to your people so you can receive back from them.
Mhm.
Respect, trust, all those things. But you're not going to get that until you make yourself the most valuable leader you can be. So it's, as you say, it is difficult to sort of change that mindset. But if you keep telling yourself, I'm doing this for more than me. I'm doing this. This is bigger than myself. You know, it, when you focus on something that's bigger than yourself, it helps you to strive towards it more. I think, because it's like, when you're helping other people to succeed, when you're helping other people to be their best selves, it sounds amazing, doesn't it? It sounds like if they're actually relying on me to do that, then it's your responsibility to be your best self for them. And that's what sort of drove me was, okay, when it was all about me, sometimes I would, like some days, oh, I don't need to do that today. But now that it's not just about me, then no, I do. I really do need to do that today. I need to make sure that everything that I've planned to do for my people is done. Otherwise, I'm letting them down. I mean, like when you let yourself down, when it was just yourself, you ain't really that bothered. But because it's about other people, that's what drives me. What drives others. I feel.
Yeah, and it's one of the blessings of a leader to
Mm,
get to that point where, and it's amazing how this truly works. When you give, when you give, then you get, and it's like, wow. You have to experience it to truly see the power behind it.
mm,
And when you're doing for yourself, you get, you just get for yourself. That's it. You know.
mm,
But when you do for groups, for teams, for for company groups, and you get back, it's extra. It's folded. That blessing comes back folded by 10 or 15 people, and
yeah.
so you feel it. Its impact is so much greater. Now, Ricky mentions here, and I'll read it quickly once I put it up on. Um, and she says, if your focus as a leader is to protect and support your team members, your team members can focus on doing the work and allows everyone to shine and grow. And that is
Yeah.
truly where you get the big bang for the buck. Earlier today, I was talking with somebody about responsibility, accountability, what you can give, what you can't give, things like that. But
Mm.
when you let go some, and it goes back all the way to our beginning conversation of micromanagement. But when you're able to trust your people, you're able to give them and guide them and allow them to shine and see the best version of themselves, because sooner or later you're not going to be there, right?
Exactly.
In one way or another, you're not going to be. So, but if you can build them up, what I would love to see is that there's a scramble to figure out that the heartache is, wow, I got 5 great potential people that I could put in this spot. My pain is that I got to choose one, right?
Yeah,
That's a good problem.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
So,
definitely.
but that's where you want to be. You want to. Now, obviously, not everybody is going to grow at the same level. Not everybody's going to have the requisite knowledge and experience and things like that. But we should truly be able to raise from the group that we have a leader versus trying to go out and try to find one that's already made, right? So hopefully the listeners tonight are are doing that. And if you're not doing that, try it. It truly works. So
I mean, I was going to say, as Ricky says, if your focus as a leader is to protect and support your team members, your responsibility is your people, and the team members' responsibility is the result, getting the work done, getting the results. And the only way to do that as a leader is to give your power away, which is what micromanagers can't do. And what managers don't do is empower their people. What does empower mean? Give your power away. And now that takes a lot of trust and a lot of courage to do. But if you're a leader who trusts your team, feels responsible for your team, serves your team, then you'll find it a lot easier to give your power away so that your team can use that power, leverage that power to be their best self and do their best work to achieve the best results for the team and for the organization. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
It's a beautiful result. When you talk about what you really want to see in a group dynamic, a leader empowering their people to be not only the best version of themselves, but to also grow in a way where they can take the reins and you feel that you feel that you can go now, right? And a lot of people, they don't want to necessarily leave, but there comes a time where we've given as much as we can, right? Because we all have our caps, our limits, our extent that we can actually teach and mold and things. And so that's why it's so critical for leaders to have mentors, right? So that you can grow, and then you don't get to this point where it's like, oh man, everybody's up at my level. What am I going to do now, right? But you continuously learn for the sake of your people. If your aim is to be there for a while. Now, if you're one of those, hey, I'm going to do the best I can, get you to where I'm at, I'm out. Okay, that might work for you. But most people like to stick around for a little bit. I'm one that because of the military, I'm so used to having my 3 years and go, right? and you get used to that. But it's a beautiful sight to see leaders take some of that investment into their folks and see them grow. Now, Sherry writes here, exactly, if the leader is weak, the team is weak, it's not a race to see who is the best, That's what having a team is all about. And strong leaders build strong team members that end up being strong leaders. So thank you, Sherry, for that comment, and Ricky. And so Tom, you wrote your book. You have the website. Folks are going to be able to get on there and look at the book and your website. Tell me a little bit of the things that are coming up on your radar, that you may be wanting to share with us tonight.
Well, in the future, I'm going to be self-publishing another book. I'm not quite sure what the date of that's going to be yet, but I'm guessing it's going to be early next year. But I'm also working on a number of online courses. Like the way I'm trying to build highlyeffectiveleader.com is there's 3 areas. There's leadership, personal growth, and influence. Now, leadership and influence are very similar. Well, they're virtually exactly the same, but not many know that. So I'm trying to sort of distinguish between the two and why they're both the same. But also in the middle of that is your personal growth. So you keep growing yourself, but also helping others grow as well. So I'm trying to create online courses, all to focus on leaders, but in those 3 areas. And that's going to be my sort of next focus, and I'm going to be launching them within the next month or so. I'm going to spread the word on LinkedIn and on my website as well, and on YouTube as well, to get people involved, or get people interested, and let people know about them. So hopefully they can go through these online courses and learn from not just learn from like leadership principles that I've sort of learned myself, but also learn from my experiences, because that's the main thing about it is, life experience. Every person's life experiences are different, and they can all teach you a different lesson. So that's what the whole point of these online courses is about. And then hopefully from that, I'll develop the online courses into workshops, physical workshops, speaking engagements, things like that. But that's sort of in a bit further into the future. I'm still new to all this, you see.
Yeah, no, you have your hands full for quite a bit of time here in the future. It's interesting that you are separating leadership and influence, because there are plenty of people that have influence and have no leadership titles nor positions. They just sit there, and it's funny because when I go do assessments at companies, I usually sit at the back of the room. I don't sit at the front. I usually sit at the back, and I listen to, let's say, a leadership meeting. And what I look for, and I'll tell you this, what I look for is where all the eyes shift to.
Yeah.
When there's a question and someone has to pipe up, all the eyes, if you notice, will shift to the true leader.
Yeah.
It'll be either a facial expression or a nod or something where they indicate either approval or disapproval of what's going on. And most often I see that those folks are not the top of the leadership.
Yeah.
But they have the most influence on the group.
Yeah. There's a guy who's a very good friend of mine who I worked with in Liverpool. His name's Tom as well. He had probably the most influence out of anybody in the whole company, even including the managing director. And he was a technician on the shop floor who worked on the workshop floor. He actually worked under the trains and fixed the trains, and he had more influence than anybody. Some of the best leaders in the world that we don't know about don't have leadership, don't have management positions or director positions or chief executive positions, but they have the most influence because they are true leaders. and they understand leadership, and they know exactly what leadership is about, and they understand why they have the influence as well. That's they're not doing it to make themselves look good or build up their ego or anything like that, or be an arrogant person. It's to help. It's to be, to help others and serve the people around them, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it truly is. And when you talk about uh, the type of influence that I see when I'm looking around rooms, that's it. It's a
Mm,
very quiet, reserved, uh, confidence that you
yeah.
see out of these people, where
Mm,
and you mentioned something that's very important, right? They also know that they have it.
yeah,
You don't
exactly.
have to you don't have to tell them that they have it. They know they have it.
Mm,
And those that really have it cherish it. So they wield it pretty sparingly, right?
mm,
They don't throw their weight around or anything like that, because they really don't have anything to prove. All they know is that, hey, you could be in whatever position you want to be. Most people are gonna come to me. And so
mm,
those are and so when I go into companies and I see that type of reserved influence type of person sitting on the sidelines, and
mm,
oftentimes I ask them, hey, I've noticed some things, yada yada yada. And I always say, why aren't you in the leadership position? They almost all tell me, I don't want that.
mm,
I don't want that. I had a gentleman that served in a company for almost 25 years. He should have been, by all accounts, and by the extent of all words that could say, should have been the director.
mm,
He should have been, right? He said he didn't want it. He said, I don't want that, because with that comes this, and I always see this person bickering with that one. He said, no, I'm fine where I'm at. I
yeah,
know that I'm leading where I'm sitting, and I don't need that. Which is
yeah.
funny if you talk about people that want to be in leadership. So what that told me was that the leadership was not in the right position.
Mm. Yeah, I
But
mean, yeah.
but the guy was fine with it.
Mm. Well, it's the same with the guy I worked with. He didn't want the leadership, because I said to him many a time, why aren't you in the director's position, or at least the workshop manager's position? And he's like, I don't want to be. I'm fine where I am. I'm not. And I was like, this was when I was about 22. So I was like, yeah, but you could be earning like a lot more money. And he's like, it's not about that.
Yeah.
It's about, it's about influencing the people around me and saving those people around me. And I was like, I remember at the time, because I wasn't that clued up on leadership at the time, and I remember thinking, I don't get that. But now I obviously understand it now, because he had so much influence, positive influence on the people around him, and it obviously fulfilled him. And that's at the end of the day, if what you're doing fulfills you, and you're happy, and it makes you it helps you be happy at home and stuff like that, then why would you change it?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that we will never truly get. There's still, even to today, I still don't get it, because how I see things go astray in the leadership realm, uh,
Mm,
because those people are happy where they are, right? and
yeah,
and so then you don't ever get a true right size of leadership in a company where most people can do the most good. But hey, everybody's got to make a choice. So Tom, thank you so much for sharing this last hour with me. We've shared your
okay.
book, we've shared your, and we'll make sure that it's on LinkedIn. um this conversation about managers and leaders can go on forever, but I know you have a couple of things Folks, thank you so much for being with us tonight. If you have any questions pending, post, if you're seeing this as a replay, hey, Tom and I will be glad to answer any questions. I know Ricky answered asked a question. We'll make sure that we get on there, Tom and I, and look at that and answer it to the best of our ability. But for tonight, yeah, Tom, how could people get a hold of you if they want to talk to you more about your book, more about what you're doing, even book you if they want to?
Yeah, they can go to my LinkedIn. It's Tom. It's Tom Lawrence Mentor. If they need to speak to me, I've got a YouTube channel which is called Leadership and Growth. My website is highlyeffectiveleader.com, which you can contact me through the contact us page on that. And it's also got the email address, which is support@highlyeffectiveleader.com as well. So just go through those channels. And as I say, Enrique, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's been one of the best podcasts I've seen on LinkedIn and on the webs on the internet, actually. And thank you for all the guys who've commented, and especially Sherry and Ricky who've given great points tonight. And as I say, if anyone wants to ask me a question or get in touch, then they can do that through the LinkedIn, YouTube, or my website.
Outstanding.
I've also left a link to the book as well if they want to have a look at that.
Great deal. So we'll make sure that all of that is part of the notes there, and you can get a hold of Tom. Everybody, Aloha Friday. We wish you a great and successful weekend. Enjoy it. Settle down. Take a break. Get ready for the next week. Managers and leaders are different distinctions. Get Tom's book. And if you catch us on the replay, I hope you enjoyed this. And we'll see each other next week on the next Aloha Friday Live. So everybody out there, take care and be well. We want to make sure that you are ready for your next leadership challenge. Good night, everybody.